Thank you very much for joining us for our final session of the day. We're going to be talking all things innovation in partnerships. And I think we're all very much aware that we are the last thing standing in between you, espresso martinis, happy hour in general. So we really do appreciate you joining us to talk about partnerships innovation. I've got a great panel with me, and before they introduce themselves, I just wanted to point out that we are taking questions for the session. So if you want to join the Slido and the IPX24 London, you can do that, or you can scan the QR code as well to submit your questions. Partnerships innovation is actually something that is really, really close to my heart, and I'm really excited to have a really great panel today of experts with me to talk about that. So without further ado, I'd like my panel to introduce themselves. Please, can you tell me your name, what you do, and also what your favorite piece of innovation has been over the last month?
Hi there, I'm Dan Harding, Commercial Director at Involved Technology. We've developed an AI-powered virtual shopping assistant that is helping brands and their users, customers, improve the online shopping experience. In terms of interesting innovation, so I came across an augmented reality-based shopping tool the other day, Deep AR. I think they're operating an affiliate for any retailers out there. So yeah, a try-on piece of AR tech, really interesting. Yeah, that's for me.
Hi, I'm Fianna. I'm here to represent TikTok for Business. Essentially, I'm the head of affiliate program for TikTok Ads Manager. The second question is, okay, the latest technology. Okay, I would say this is not the latest technology, but I have recently discovered AirTag, and I just put it on my kids.
Nice.
Now I can track where they're going, so I love it.
Yeah, I'm Will Fraser. I'm the head of advocate here at impact.com. I think the innovation is kind of interesting. Obviously, first of all, I think that Advocate by Impact.com is a great innovation for the partner space. But I think more broadly, actually, one of the innovations I'm really interested in right now is we're seeing a change to how pricing is being done across a whole range of technologies, even into the retail sector. And I'm just really interested to see how like hyper-personalized pricing works, as well as some different pricing models. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, really interesting to hear what your favorite piece of innovation has been. I'm really interested to hear a little bit more about innovation, in particular at your company, and would like to hear a little bit more about what's new. So, Vanna, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I would say there's three things I'm particularly excited about on the TikTok for Business side. So one is we recently launched 2 affiliate programs. One is for TikTok Ads Manager, so essentially partner with Impact to help drive new advertisers to adopt to our ad format. The second one is TikTok Shop affiliate. That's also relatively new, and TikTok Shop just launched in UK and US earlier this year, so that's pretty exciting. It's a platform and a marketplace that millions of shops is able to meet millions of creators to help them drive traffic and sales globally. So those are the 2 exciting, near and dear to my heart. The other 2 products that's pretty exciting, one is we just announced at TikTok World. It's called TikTok Symphony. So it's a 100% AI-generated creative content tool, which I think it's great for SMB, particularly when they have budget constraint and creative constraint. It's basically very easy for them to launch TikTok first type of creative using this tool. The second one is the other product, the third product is called TikTok One. So it's basically a creative solution where brands can meet with millions of creators and help them create either online or offline creative products.
Cool. Well, we've heard a little bit about Advocate today already, so obviously a really exciting proposition. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you have coming up this year?
Yeah, I will try not to repeat myself too much. One of the things that's been really exciting for me as we've looked at this integration of Advocate into the broader Impact platform is this world that I've been kind of calling amateur affiliates. These ultra low friction programs that really are bridging the gap between maybe a customer, an influencer, maybe a micro affiliate, and in a way that we can pull people in who have social influence but don't have the savviness, don't have the desire, honestly, to go through the friction of becoming a full-blown partner. And so we have some ways that we can help them get involved, get into programs really easily, but still keep the brand safe and keep them compliant from a payments perspective. And yeah, I just think it's really interesting as we watch this somewhat blending of what we kind of think as traditionally customers, influencers, and affiliates, and that everyone is kind of a little bit of everything. And so I think that's kind of a really interesting space that we're looking at. And then that brings us into the other piece that I was talking about, which is this idea that these advocate programs have this ability to build this a really long tail, right, for partnerships. But they're also like, I call them like a farm team, like this great place to prospect partners out of. And just, that idea that you've probably got inside of your customer base a whole slew of partners that you could work with that are just actual authentic customers, and then you can pull them into your other programs. So I think that like that idea of bringing all of these things together so that you can use them to kind of build a flywheel upon themselves is really cool. So just all the different dimensions of partners and the blurring of partners and how do we help use one program to discover the next. There's a lot of really fun innovation going on there right now.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I think it's really interesting as well, hearing you both talk about how we're extending what partnerships are. We're making it easy for other participants that maybe 5 years ago we wouldn't have looked at it as partners to make use of the partnership industry and its opportunities. Dan, you and I have been working together for a really long time. I know Envolve Tech is a really hugely fast-paced company. What are some of the innovations that you have coming up?
So this year, big focus for us, the rest of the second half of the year is introducing the latest large language models from both Google and OpenAI into our core product. And that will allow us and the technology to hold context and just level up our current offering. And then my knowledge with AI is fairly limited, but I know when it comes to generative AI, we've all seen some fails that can happen with AI. It's really only as good as the data it's grounded to. So the second part of that work will be deeper integrations to our affiliate network partners, other e-com platforms as well. So we can continue to better optimize that full journey through, in engagement all the way through to retention, so the full funnel. So that's going to be the whole second half of this year for us.
Cool. Yeah, I really want to pick up a bit more on that point you just made also around data and like the importance of data in particular in the context of innovation. Will, what's your thinking about how data feeds into innovation in particular?
Yeah, I was once an engineer, and so I can have that tendency to kind of go really deep on data and want really, really high quality and statistically significant data. But I think when we look at data from an innovation perspective, we have to kind of think about it in classifications, right? There's a world where I'm data inspired, data informed, and then there's data complete, right? So I think we need to be careful to think about what is the cost of making the wrong decision. And if the cost is minimal for whatever our business scale is, then we might want to look at data inspired. We've got some points that are kind of directionally pointing us where we want to go, and I think that can be enough to start to explore. And then, of course, as it becomes a more and more expensive and harder to reverse position, we want to be looking at that we need complete statistically significant data. And I think that it's important to just know where you are in that journey so that you're using the right data, the right amount of data to get the right decision. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
All right, thank you. Well, Dan, I'll pass over to you. How do you use data to build an innovative product?
Probably echo what Will said there in that for us, it's finding that balance. Like we're a fully data-driven business. We're looking at that data to optimize the technology, looking at how customers are engaging with the tool to continually improve that. But it's also, just finding that balance. It can often lead you down a bit of a rabbit hole. So, knowing how that product's structured and how we can build it to the best of its ability is sort of our focus, our side.
Really interesting to hear how your companies in particular have embraced that innovation. And I know that for a lot of companies, that's not always easy to do. It takes a lot of stakeholders to agree and be a little bit more adventurous in their approach. And often new ideas that may come up that are a little bit more innovative are unproven. So I'd be really keen to hear your advice on how you can take other companies and other stakeholders on the innovation journey with you. Vanna, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I love that question, and kind of to the point of earlier, it's about the balance, right? So I think there's full room of marketers. Everybody loves the data. Everybody also loves the insight. Similarly, in TikTok, we have it's a platform that we embrace creativity and inspiration, but we also love technology and innovation. So we come up with like TikTok Symphony, for example. I think the future is really about like how do we strike a balance between the AI generative content that meets with human connectivity and also creativity, right? So we got one hand, it's a platform of all those millions of really bright creators, but on the other hand, we are also trying to come up with the technology of AI generated content. So how do we balance the two?
Cool. Will, how about you?
Yeah, I think when it comes to driving these innovations, it's first and foremost about building a partnership with for us brands, right? So that how do we bring them into the fold? How do we get them to come along with the journey for us? And I do appreciate that when we're trying new things, we're asking people to risk, right? We have to admit this is new. And with that, it's about how do we de-risk it for them? Right? And I look at that as a kind of a combination of two things, right? We have to make sure we have the right product, right? And we have to make sure that we're then, also able to take that product to market in the right way. And so we're trying to bring them into the fold, trying to be honest with them where we stand, but also give them that confidence that we're pushing the bounds. And so I think that to me, it's about little baby steps with our partners, right? How do we get them in and get them to believe in the initial levels and then test and test and test as we go forward? It does also take a certain level of humility to say, hey, there's going to be a bump in the road here at some point. We don't know where it is, but it's going to happen. We're going to work hard, and if you trust us, we're going to go the right way. And I think that can be scary for not necessarily brands as much as people like myself who have to go out there and say, hey, I've got this wild idea, and I need someone to test it. And so I think it's just about kind of that step-by-step approach of de-risking it, being humble, being honest, but still pushing the bounds with your partners.
Dan, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, to Will and Vanna's point there, I think the channel provides such a great platform to test relatively risk-free. So that's what we really leverage at Involve and have done. There's hundreds of tech providers now that you can test via the partnerships affiliate space. And yeah, the model's there to be, I say, used. Test these technologies. If you're not seeing the impact that you were sold, then you can turn them off. You can try something else. There's so much out there to test via that, I'd say.
I think what I hear you all say in a way is there has to be some, I guess, readiness to take some sort of risk as well. So there may be unproven concepts that you are very much unsure of whether they will work or not, and to an extent you have to convince people to take that risk without always being able to guarantee the outcome. And that actually ties into some of the questions that we've had as well. So we have a question here from Mark around new innovations and that often involving advanced data collection and analysis of that data. How would you address concerns about data privacy and security around that?
I'm going to divert to one of these on that question. Maybe will data security.
You want to take it or you wish it?
Wow, put me on.
I mean, I'm happy to start, but I think you've probably got some good data.
I think that's a big topic for TikTok nowadays. We get that a lot. But we definitely take data security into, essentially that's our number one priorities for the company. I can't really speak to EMEA because I'm actually the US based, but for US, we have what we call TikTok Texas project, essentially the data stays with our partner Oracle. So it's all 100% local in the server. So that's one thing. And then two is we have just sea of people that's both built AI for the compliance as well as human checks. So essentially balance of like how do we leverage human and technology for security purposes.
Yeah, I think that the way we look at it is like data security and privacy is kind of a core tenet to everything we're building. And so when we're innovating, we're pushing the bounds, it still lives within the compliance of our security approach. So, there's things we can go fast with and we can break, if you will. But there's other things we can't, right? And I think that that's just a bit of a control as trying to be a responsible data citizen out there. But yeah, I think it's maybe a bit of the brakes to innovation sometimes, but if you have the core infrastructure in place, you've got the projects that are already monitoring data, it's hopefully a little bit easier.
Van, I have a question here specifically for you about innovations that you have on your radar that would help to serve the knowledge gap between creators and tech performance partnerships.
Sorry, repeat the question.
So the question is there anything that you have on your radar that would help to bridge the knowledge gap between creators and then the tech and the performance partnerships, other stakeholders and platforms within that?
Yeah, I would say TikTok Shop Affiliate is a good program where it blends the creator piece, which is a big topic in the industry now, but using the affiliate CPA model, right? So it's a perfect experimental child in the industry. Yeah.
And then we'll have a question here specifically for you around the best strategies to drive increased customer referrals as a partnership type. So how do you sell that in? I think you've touched on it already, but how do you make it more of a partnership?
I will now hold a 30-minute master class. Don't worry. I think the number one thing you have to think about when you're looking at an advocate program is that it's like any other channel. Right, you have to drive the awareness of that, and you have to continue investing in it. Yep. Too many people think of advocate programs as fire and forget. We build it, and they will come, and it's done. And this is a channel. This is a practice that you need to continue to do. So, finding out where are the happy moments in your customer journey. Is it right after purchase? Is it when they've first received the value of your product? And you need to just keep putting the program in front of people. So I'd say that's kind of the key piece that many people miss. And then after that, there's all sorts of worlds around incentive design and things like that. But the one piece I would just touch on there is that when you look at an advocate program, when you're coming from the performance world, you're often thinking like you need to pay these people a lot. Yeah. Okay. And that can actually have really detrimental effects. When we start to offer too high of a reward, we start to get different behaviors than we're looking for from an honest and true advocate, right? So we can look at that as a lower reward for the referrer. But sometimes also you want to think about what's that other person getting, right? There's some really good research that points us to the idea that actually you could, in theory, not incentivize the current customer, the referrer, and you could just look to say, how do I incentivize the new customer? Because they're the one that has the highest friction. You're asking them to risk and try a new product. So, I think if you just think about how do you market your program and make sure everyone knows about it, and how do you keep that incentive realistic to the idea that this is a customer doing this, not an affiliate, that'll go a really long way. And if you'd like some academic papers on the topic, we can share about that later.
Thank you. And Dan, I have a question specifically for you as well around your AI chatbot and how it has evolved in the last few years. So in terms of functionality, user engagement.
So if we're honest, the last probably year has been around stitching what the structure of the technology and how it was set up. It wasn't set up to scale in the way we wanted it to be. So that's been a lot of energy the last year has gone into that. We're now at a place where that's off the table. The next piece is the large language model integrations, which we probably would, if we're honest, would prefer to be doing end of last year, but that's where we're at. That will take the technology to the next level in terms of its competitiveness. The piece around pairing products in the moment while you've got that customer engaged while they're on site is something that's still quite unique to our technology and specifically leveraging the affiliate model. So once that piece is gone, it will allow us to continue to develop the roadmap. The idea of the future of Involve is that we're going to be a one-stop shop for various different conversion technologies for different areas of the funnel. So that's to come.
Exciting. Cool. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for all of your questions. I'd like to close our session today by asking you a final question. We can just go in this order, really.
Yeah.
If people take one thing away from this conversation, what would you like it to be?
For me, it's always an opportunity to shine a light on tech in the space, not specifically just us. All the tech providers I've mentioned that are accessible via Impact, the platform. If you're an advertiser, if you're an agency, it's still an underutilized channel. So it's Q3 coming up. Mix things up a bit. How can we add an additional type of revenue to the performance of the campaigns that we're running? Just test and learn is my final point, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say to that point, technology is only as good as if it's useful for you. So definitely figure out like what are you trying to achieve? What is the end result? And is the technology that's helping you to do this?
We didn't really touch on it, but I guess the thing that I would say is that if none of your experiments fail, you're really not pushing far enough.
Yep.
And we have to actually do things that might fail.
Yep.
So innovation doesn't happen by just doing what you know works. So try new things, develop new channels, try new strategies, campaigns, and expect that some of them will fail. But the ones that hit are going to really hit. So I just encourage people to take risks responsibly.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I said at the beginning, innovation is actually a topic that's really close to my heart. And I think a lot of really interesting points were made around taking risks and being able to, advocate for taking those or making those decisions that maybe feel a little bit more risky in the moment. I think one of the things that I was really key to get out of the session today, and I feel like we talked quite a lot about it without naming it, but is making the conversation a little bit more ambitious when we talk about partnerships. So we talked about like widening who we consider as a partner, but I think we often all get quite caught up in, what a day-to-day, what is our partnership strategy? But I think when we really look at innovation, we want to take that wider and we want to look at participants within the industry that maybe previously weren't partners, and how can we make them partners, and how can we build things to make those experiences for customers, for partners more seamless. And I think, a lot of that came out of that panel today. So thank you very much, guys. That's it.
Thank you.